Hello, welcome to clarencedaily.com.au. I'm Damien Fisher from Loving Life 103.1. Today I want us both to get a bit of an understanding and get to know the man behind the title. He spent 50 years in local government, 30 of those years as General Manager. I'm pleased to say that Mayor Ray Smith from Clarence Valley Council joined me. Mayor Smith, hello.
Hello, Damien.
Welcome to the program.
Yeah, thank you.
50 years in local government, that's a long time.
It is a long time, yeah. My first position was Junior Rates Clerk at Baulkham Hills Shire Council. Started on the 6th of January 1971.
Wow, that's a little while ago.
It is, yeah.
So you've progressed from being a junior clerks person all the way through to the top job of General Manager.
Yeah.
And now you're the mayor.
Yes, yeah. Well, each time I moved councils, it was a promotion. So from Baulkham Hills, I went to Hornsby to Penrith, Penrith to Waverley, and then Waverley to Grafton City.
And what was it like moving from, say, a city council to somewhere like Grafton?
Very interesting. The other first few councils were not political. Waverley Council was extremely political, and that's where I got my first taste of politics in local government. And it was either a Labor council or a Liberal council. Okay. It was black and white, and there was nothing in between.
Yeah.
But I got such a relief when I moved to Grafton, and my very first council meeting, I was sort of trying to identify the politics, and there were none. It was obvious everyone was there for the same reason, just to support and help their community, which was great.
So over the years of being GM of obviously Grafton Council, you would have seen a lot of different changes to when they amalgamated.
Oh, absolutely. I started in February 1993. And the new Local Government Act came into force in March 1993.
Wow, baptism of fire.
Yeah, it was a baptism of fire because suddenly I had to learn all the new legislation and put a whole lot of policies and processes in place. But it was a good learning experience.
And how many staff did you have back then for Grafton?
Oh, back then maybe 120, 150
really?
At the most, yeah.
And that was in the old council building opposite where you are now?
No. It was in the old building, but where the new building is now.
Okay.
Yeah. Always on that same site.
Yeah.
And the council chambers is now where the customer service section is.
Okay. Yeah. So you spent how many years in Grafton?
11 years as General Manager in Grafton. Then came the amalgamations in 2004. I wasn't successful getting back. Because they didn't want any baggage, and I understood that. It was a new council, they wanted a fresh start. But my local government career wasn't over as far as I was concerned. So then I spent 5 years as General Manager at Cobar Shire Council.
Well, you went west.
Very west. I think it's almost as far west as you could go. And then 12 years as General Manager down at Bland Shire Council in the Riverina.
What sort of got you to come back to Clarence Valley?
Well, it was always our intention to retire here, and we kept our house in Victoria Street. So we came back here. I retired in 2022, came back to Grafton for that very purpose, just to sit and relax. And then 2024, along came the local government elections, and I think I still had some of that local government in my blood. I was sort of not compelled to, but felt I could contribute positively.
Yeah.
Given my experience and knowledge of local government. So I put my hand up and here I am.
In the height of COVID back in 2020, you were actually given the Public Service Medal Award. Tell me about that experience, because that was quite unique.
It was unique, and it was probably one of the highlights of my career, being nominated and then receiving the Public Service Medal. It was presented to me at Government House by the Governor, but unfortunately we were sitting at a table similar to this. The medal was in the middle. We couldn't shake hands. That was unique.
Yeah.
But again, one of the highlights of my career.
So when you ran for council, did you have a purpose of why you wanted to run? Was there something that there was a bug that was sort of in there?
There was nothing specific. There was obviously a lot of talk in the community at the time that things were wrong and things needed fixing. But I felt with my knowledge and experience, I still wanted to be part of a decision-making body that made a positive impact on the community. And whether or not there were perceived problems, I thought, well, we'll sort them out as we go.
Yeah, yeah. So obviously, in the lead up to that election, I did see you at a few council meetings. One of the very rowdy council meetings was the election of the mayor. So Councillor Tiley didn't run for mayor that time. It was Councillor Johnston who got voted in as mayor, but it was also the same day as the vote for the actual aquatic centre. What did you sort of think when you were there at that particular council meeting?
Well, I was thinking, I knew some of the background and the delay, I guess, in coming to a final decision, which left a lot of the community without a swimming pool for quite some time. But I thought overall it was a worthwhile project and worth supporting, but it didn't have unanimous support, obviously, no. But in hindsight, you look back now at our aquatic centre and it's a fabulous facility.
One of the best in the state.
Yes, yeah.
So 2024, the local government elections, then you were coming up to 2 years nearly that you were elected as mayor.
Yes.
Tell you what, it's been an interesting time.
It certainly has, yes. It wasn't what I expected, particularly with those hostile public galleries in the early days. I found that very challenging. But again, I thought I handled it to the best of my ability. Still tried to show some empathy to the people that were in the gallery because I understood they were there because they had particular issues and concerns with council. But at the same time, the council meeting isn't the place to protest because we have rules and regulations that we have to follow and we have to get through the business of council.
Do you think, I mean, I know that there was definitely tension prior to a particular meeting where a comment was made that sort of upset the wider community, and then from there it pretty much snowballed, didn't it?
It did, yeah, and that was most unfortunate, and hindsight's always a very valuable tool to have in your kit. But yeah, it created quite a bit of angst in the community, and for good reason. But again, I'd like to think that that's now water under the bridge, so to speak, and we've moved on. And I think a lot of us learned some valuable lessons through that process.
50 years in local government, I mean, you go back to when you first started, there was no social media, there was no email, there was probably not even computers back then, was there?
Very large ones.
Very large ones. How do you, in 2026, deal with the modern technology and I suppose social media?
Well, what I find challenging, particularly with emails, people click send and they sit there waiting for the response. In the old days, I say the old days, if a complaint came into council, it was a written complaint in the form of a letter, and you had a couple of days to digest and prepare a response. But these days, the pressure on getting an answer back so quickly is very challenging. And sometimes it's not possible because you have to research, make sure you're getting the facts right before you send out the information.
Talk to me about the relationship between the general manager and the mayor, because some people probably think that you have all the answers and you should know everything. I mean, I've been quite critical about that, but you don't always have the answers because the general manager is the person that runs the day-to-day operations.
That's right. Look, as far back as 1993, when that Act came in, it sort of defined the role of the general manager and the mayor, and there was quite a separation from what was previously. Prior to 1993, the mayor or any councillor could walk into the council office and actually direct a member of staff to undertake a certain task for them. But then 93 came and that changed that. And you're right, sometimes I think the community think, well, you're the mayor, you should know, but I don't know everything that's going on. I try to keep abreast of what's going on. But yeah, the general manager of every council is responsible for that day-to-day operation.
So back in 93, you were a general manager. Do you think that was a good thing that new rule came in that, you know, the councillors couldn't direct staff?
I did at the time because if you had a plan and the councillors were coming in and directing staff to do something else, it was putting that plan out, it affected your budget. I thought it was a good thing. And then along came, I think it was about 2004, integrated planning and reporting.
Yes.
And I think that was a very positive step forward because it made councils think 10 years longer than their 4-year term.
Yeah.
And I think that's been a very positive impact on local government.
How often would you sit down with the general manager at Clarence Valley Council and sort of, have a cup of tea or a coffee and talk about different things?
Yeah, I sit down with Laura every Monday.
Yep.
I prepare my own agenda with things that I'd like to discuss with her. It's always very amicable, very professional. And sometimes I might have 3 or 4 items, sometimes I might have 15 or 20. But we sit, we discuss them, we sort things out. Then I feel confident that I can then go forward and go out into the community and answer certain questions.
You are out in the community quite a bit. You're a member of the Midday Rotary. You were president at one point.
Yes.
And you go to different things, even as far as the AGM of the Hospital Auxiliary.
Yes.
Which obviously you attended recently as well. What sort of things do you do to relax? I mean, you retired, but then you've sort of pretty much gone into a full-time role.
Yeah, I guess relaxing. I enjoy watching sport. I was playing golf up until I became a councillor on a regular basis, and that's sort of come to a bit of a halt at the moment. And potter around in the garden. I'm certainly not a green thumb, but I enjoy keeping the yards nice, neat and tidy. I have quite an extensive stamp collection, which I haven't touched for years.
Okay.
So maybe after this term on council I can get back to that. But otherwise, we've got 5 grandchildren, unfortunately 3 overseas, but 2 boys here that are now playing AFL and soccer. So every weekend in winter, we're down watching the boys play. So yeah, it's great.
That's great.
Yeah.
And what sort of sports do you like watching?
Oh, Damien, I'll have to say this in every type. I could watch any sort of sport and enjoy it. But obviously, favourite AFL, rugby league, rugby union. Watched the World Cup recently. Yeah, I'll watch the swimming, golf. Yeah, you name it.
So who do you follow in the NRL?
Well,
please don't say Parramatta or Souths.
Parramatta.
Oh.
I was 14 years old, so that's 60 years I've been following Parramatta.
Okay.
I had some good times during the 80s, but since then, not so good.
Like the West Tigers.
Yeah.
And what about AFL? Who do you follow?
Well, I have to follow Geelong because my wife Donna comes from Geelong.
Right.
And her late father was the captain of Geelong.
Oh, wow.
Back in around about 1948, 49.
Okay.
He was captain of Geelong, so I knew nothing about AFL before I met Donna, and then I realised I had to learn very quickly what the rules were.
So is it the old adage says happy wife, happy life?
That's very true. Yeah.
Let's talk about the current term of council, because you have got another month or so before the mayoral elections. Is there anything in the last 2 years that you thought or you think that you may have could have done something different to what sort of turned out to be?
Yeah, I've learnt some lessons. I know I came out in support of the general manager publicly, but sort of enticed fellow councillors to put their name to it. I think that was a mistake on my part. That should have just been me personally expressing that support. And it did create a bit of a split within the council, which was a shame. And I guess chairing the meetings is always a challenge. Being up to date, the recent code of meeting practice has changed 3 times in about the last 6 months, so trying to stay on top of that's also been difficult.
We've always got Councillor Johnson who can always keep you up abreast of that.
I'm amazed that his knowledge of the code of meeting practice, it's very extensive, yeah.
When the whole semi-permanent residence situation came up, we know that it was an operation issue. That's what the general manager said. Do you think that should have gone to council? Do you think, in hindsight?
Yeah, look, in hindsight, definitely. But all 9 councillors sat in the council chambers at Grafton. We were briefed on holiday parks in general. And then we were advised about best practice, which was to remove semi-permanent sites. At the time, the general manager said that she would undertake that process. And I don't think any of us knew of the ramifications and implications arising from that decision.
And I guess now, you've still got cases going through NCAT, which is just dragged on, which isn't good for council because it's costing money. It's not good for the semi-permanent residents. They're going through stress and also costing money. So
It's been a very long and drawn out process, unfortunately. We would like to see it all come to an end as soon as possible, but the administrative tribunal has certain processes they have to follow, and that's why it's taking so long.
Challenges. What have been some of the challenges in the last 2 years?
Well, certainly bringing hostile public galleries into order has been a challenge. And I think maintaining not so much teamwork approach now. I did bring all the councillors together early to sort of say, let's lay our cards on the tables. And Damien, I didn't realise how many cards were in the deck. And I don't expect everyone to vote unanimously at every meeting. That's not a good thing. It's good to see the changes in the voting patterns, and they do change from meeting to meeting.
Yeah.
But it's still a challenge just sort of having all of the councillors there for the right reason.
Yeah. One thing I have noticed is you try and give all the councillors a chance to speak. And,
Yes.
I think that from a person from the outside looking in, I think that's important, because I think the community needs to be able to hear everyone's point of view.
Yes. Yeah, that's a challenge, because technically I could say there's a speaker for, a speaker against. If there's no other speakers for, that ends the debate. But you're right, I give everyone the opportunity to have their say. The June meeting was a bit of a mess because I kept allowing questions during debate. The beginning of the July meeting, I said no more. If you're going to have a question, it has to be asked before the debate, because every councillor has the right to be heard in silence during debate.
I know in January this year the Code of Meeting Practice was updated, and then not long after that it was redacted.
Yes.
One thing that I've certainly enjoyed are the Tuesday meetings before the monthly council meeting. So council's keeping that open as a meeting.
At the moment, we're having our briefing committees, which are open to the public. That was certainly a change in the Code of Meeting Practice that came through. Initially, they were saying no more behind closed doors meetings. And that's one aspect of local government where every council gets painted with the same brush.
Yep.
And obviously, there were councils doing the wrong thing. And that's why the minister at the time brought that change in. But yeah, no, we're enjoying the public meeting briefings, and having the public forum on the Tuesday prior allows a couple of days for the councillors to absorb what's being said and in the deputations before we have to make a decision.
What sort of are your hopes and dreams moving forward? Like, you've still got 2 years left as a councillor,
Yes.
even if you might get voted back in as mayor. But what would you like to see happen between now and the end of the term?
I would just like to see the continued growth of the Clarence Valley, but in a sustainable way. I'm certainly not a greenie, but I understand our environment needs protection, and we have to balance that between sustainable development and our environment. But I would just like to see it continue to grow, creation of some more industry if possible, to create more local jobs. It's a shame when we see young people having to leave the valley to get employment. A lot of them do come back with their families, which is great, but we lose that sort of context between teenagers and young adults, which I think we need in the valley. So anything we could do to maintain that would be good.
We've got a new big shopping centre due to open later in this year in South Grafton, or maybe next year.
Yes.
That's certainly good for the economy, I would imagine.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and that will create a lot of local jobs for young people, which is a great thing.
Yeah. Just going back to your time as General Manager of Grafton Council, was it under your term as GM that we didn't get a university, and why was that? What was the decision behind that?
No, that was prior
to
my term. Yeah. But what I'd heard during the debate was on the basis, we didn't want young people here having parties and everything. But you look back now, again, hindsight, places like Armidale, Lismore, with university campuses, they're doing really well.
Yeah, they certainly are. And what about being a city? I mean, I know it used to be the city of Grafton. What happened there? Why did we lose that status?
Well, I inquired into that, why we lost that status. It's because now we're Clarence Valley Council.
Right.
So Clarence Valley can't be a city. So the state government, in their wisdom, took that city status away from us, which I think is a shame, because Grafton was the first city on the North Coast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Signs are still there that says that.
Yeah. But apparently that's the reason. Come the council amalgamations, we lost that status.
Now, obviously, over your time as GM, you would have been going to different events, say at Parliament House in Canberra and also in Sydney. Are there any particular memories of meeting certain politicians that sort of stick in your head?
Yeah, well, certainly I've met the recent minister a couple of times, but if you're going back to Grafton, we had Premier Rann come to Grafton during a flood. We entertained Premier Rann and Premier Bob Carr.
Wow.
And I remember asking Premier Bob Carr, would you like a drink? He was coming back into the council chambers and he said, yes. And I said, what can I get you? And the order was a glass of warm water.
Oh, okay.
So I thought,
there you
that's
go.
Interesting. Yeah.
Something a little bit different.
Yeah.
And have you met our current Prime Minister?
Not our current Prime Minister, no. When I was at Blandshire, our local member was Michael McCormack.
Yes.
And when he became leader of the Nationals, I did have the opportunity to meet with him and Scott Morrison for a short period of time. But I haven't met Mr Albanese face to face yet.
And just to wrap up, talking about state and federal politics, we've got a state election coming up in March next year.
Yes.
How do you think One Nation's going to go on a federal and a state level?
Well, the talk I'm hearing is that One Nation are trying to have a candidate in every seat in the state election. And I think it'll be quite interesting. I think people want to see some sort of change. Not so much state level, but probably federal level. But if that change comes through the states, I think it's going to be a very interesting election.
Yeah, very much so. Mayor Ray Smith, I appreciate your time.
My pleasure.